Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
Tuesday, and all of our guests today brought to you by our title sponsor. You know them, Able Auctions, ableauctions.ca. As we bring in TSN Scouting Director Craig Button. Craig, thanks for doing this, sir. How are you?
I am fantastic. What do you think? Rough Riders deserving Grey Cup winners?
I think so, but I think like a lot of people from this part of the world, from this province, it was a little tough watching and thinking, boy, that could have been or should have been the BC Lions doing that to Montreal. But hats off to the Rough Riders.
Yeah, no question. I mean, it was a fine line there between the Lions and the Rough Riders, and certainly every reason to have that thought in your head. Could have, should have, what might have been.
I just assumed that you spent part of your childhood in Montreal, that you'd be an Alouettes fan.
Yep.
I mean, the Alouettes, this is their second iteration, right? And I went and watched, I remember watching Wally Bono play for the Alouettes at the old Autostad. In the wind. That's how old I am, Rick. That's how old I am, Rick. Yeah. You don't remember the Autostad. You're just a kid.
We know Wally, though. We know Wally. We love Wally.
Yeah.
Craig, you could have said I'm too young to remember the Autostad, but I do remember that. I also remember the Montreal Concords.
Oh, yes. I do.
In between the two Alouettes. Yeah.
Oh, God. And they played in the Olympic Stadium, which was a disaster.
Yeah,
I mean, can you think of a worse building that's ever been conceived and built than the Olympic Stadium in Montreal? Because I can't.
Yeah. Somehow they got the Olympics done. Despite the problems with the stadium. Hey, Panthers over the Canucks 8-5. On the positive side for the Canucks, Elias Pettersson has 8 points in his last 4 games, 19 points this season. What are you seeing from him now that maybe he wasn't there the last season or so?
Yeah, and I've even seen at times this year where, when he's not being productive and he's not being dangerous. And I use the term initiating. When Elias is attacking and he plays and he puts defenders back on their heels, he's so quick and he's got excellent hands. But when he plays in what I'll call maybe more of a reserve passive game, he doesn't get into the areas where he can be a real threat, and opponents know that, Donnie. And so if you got Elias Pettersson, you go, okay, well, he's not going to attack inside the dots. He's not going to put us back on our heels. He becomes an easier player to defend. And I think when Elias really gets after it, and when I say initiates and sets the tone, that said, you're going to handle me. I'm not going to wait to see what's there. I'm going to force you to handle, because he thinks quick. That's when he's at his best. And I don't think there's any question that when he's doing those things, he can be a really good top-notch player.
Craig, David Kampf makes his Vancouver debut last night in Florida, played around 14 minutes.
Yep.
Can he help the Canucks?
Yeah, I mean, David is a player that, in Toronto, just got lost in the shuffle, so to speak. And when I say got lost in the shuffle, they traded for Scott Laughton. Then they end up with Nicolas Waugh. It's all the same player. They're all the same player. And I think David, giving you depth, giving you a little bit of weight, giving you some penalty killing opportunities, giving you some face-off opportunities, I think that helps the Vancouver Canucks. I mean, you're not going to get these top-notch centers coming into your lineup, but I think he can be a functional player. I think when you look at the salary that he signed for, it's not onerous. It's reasonable, and I think it helps. I think it helps in those areas for the Vancouver Canucks, not to push younger players that aren't quite ready into those areas.
Hey, Craig, speaking of centers, John Beecher's available. He's on waivers today. There might be interest there from Vancouver. If the Canucks end up with him today, what would they get in John Beecher?
So if John Beecher was a 5th-round draft pick, we'd never be talking about him. But because he was a first-round draft pick, we're talking about him.
Yep.
John's a great skater. I mean, he's always been a great skater. And, I mean, that is the foundation of his game. And maybe a change of scenery would help John. you dropped the player in the first round. Maybe you thought there was going to be more offense than there is there. I never thought there was going to be a lot of offense. I think to use that speed to be kind of a catalyst in the bottom part of your lineup, he might be better suited to being a winger than a center. But he's got to use that speed to be disruptive, draw penalties, try to get in on the forecheck, create opportunities for because he's not going to be an offensive guy. He never has been. But I think that and I know I've been guilty of this in the past. You see these glimpses of that skating, and he's got size, and you go, oh, he could be so good. He could have all this ability to produce offense. I don't think he will. But if you accept him for what he is, and I just talked about David Kampf, you start to upgrade your lineup with some size and some speed. That's not a bad thing. But know what you're getting. Don't think you're getting something and hoping he can become that. Because if you're realistic about what he is and assessing him, then he's a player that if you look and go, can he fit our lineup? And that becomes positive.
Craig, check the NHL standings today, and the Maple Leafs are tied with Buffalo, dead last in the East. The GM came out today and says, I accept responsibility for what's going on. But what is going on? Nobody thought these guys would be dead last in the East.
Wow. So the GM who's responsible for the team is taking responsibility for the team. Yeah. Wow. Thanks for that revelation, Brad. I mean, the roster is constructed. It's not very good. Well, guess who constructed the roster? It was Brad Treliving. You look at a blue line that can't make a play with the puck, and that affects your offense. They're a team that when you look at the metrics and the amount of time they spend in their own zone, they're about 60% of the time in their own zone as opposed to 40% in the other team's zone. Well, guess what? When you have defensemen that can't make a play, they can't handle the forecheck, they can't defend in front of the net, you have goaltending that's near the bottom of the league, well, you're going to be near the bottom of the league. And that's exactly where they find themselves. Listen, I've been very critical of the Toronto Maple Leafs. They ran Mitch Marner out of town. He's an outstanding player. They have to find a scapegoat. And they never stood up for him. They never got in there and said, he's our guy. So you let Mitch Marner. You also send a message to other players. And I think that the loss of Mitch Marner and the slowness of the blue line and the inability for them to make a play is a real problem. And the goaltending's a problem. So they don't have a lot of offensive weapons. I mean, you have Matthews, you have Tavares, you have Nylander, Matthew Nice. Well, that leaves you 8 short. And I'm not saying all 8 guys have to produce, but when you only have 4 guys that can produce, you got big problems. And, you got a blue line that can't make plays, that can't get out of their own zone, and goaltending that can't stop a puck. Maybe they're outplaying their problems, and maybe the 18 points they have is better than they should have.
Craig, there was one team before this season began that everybody thought was going to be dead last. Pittsburgh. They're 10-5-4. They're it's just not one of those, the first 10 games they got hot. Well, guess what? We're at the 19-game mark for them, and their head is above water.
Well, I mean, Crosby's still as great as he always has been, you look at Malkin, who's having a great year. But the goaltending, Arthur Shilos, who they made a trade for, Vancouver Canucks, when they committed to Lankinen and, felt strongly about Demko, I mean, that's a crowded crease. So give Kyle Dubas lots of credit for looking at a scenario where he can improve his goaltending. Because Tristan Jarry, who we know has had stretches of really good play, but some stretches of really poor play, I think that Shilos has come in there and given him really good, solid play. Dan Muse, the coach, has allowed the younger players to get in there and play. And I know Kyle with Ben Kindle has said, like, we're not playing him in a role where he's going to be checking and playing on the wing and on the third and fourth line. If he's going to be here, we're going to play him at center. He was playing third line center behind Crosby and Malkin. He moved up to play on the wing with Crosby. I don't know what else you need to know when Crosby is comfortable playing with Ben Kindle, an 18-year-old. So trying to get some younger players in the lineup, getting some really good productive play and some good goaltending, and the Eastern Conference being in flux. I mean, when you look at the Eastern Conference, and I look at the Eastern Conference, there's only one team right now, and I like we allow for injuries and we allow for what could it look like eventually and everything. There's only one team that is head and shoulders better than everybody else, and that's the Carolina Hurricanes. And so when you look at how closely bunched everybody is, that also gives the Pittsburgh Penguins an opportunity because there's a lot of parity over there. Might not be a lot of high end parity like we have in the West, but in the East, that parity has allowed the Pittsburgh Penguins to be in the spot they're in.
And Craig, the Oilers lose 5-1 in Buffalo, 9-8-4. That's a disappointment. -12 goal differential, among the worst in the National Hockey League. Do you see them recovering from yet another slow start?
Well, they're 21 games in, right? And, we sit down and Donnie, we keep looking back to the past to try to make excuses for the present. And what I would say, having watched Edmonton this year, the goaltending, I mean, Sam Bowman comes out and thought it's been pretty good. Well, if you think that's pretty good goaltending, then you know what? Get in another line of work, Stan. I think that he's defending the goaltending. It's below league average. And Calvin Pickard's playing at an American Hockey League level, and Stuart Skinner's below league average. The blue line has been horrendous. They're better than they played, and they've been horrendous. The only player, in my view, that's been a really good, solid player for them has been Brett Kulak. So, you got too many players that aren't playing up to their level. Then up front, McDavid and Draisaitl have bailed them out. They have got them 3 wins they didn't deserve. Their record is much better than it is right now. But they're another team up front. They don't have enough. They simply don't have enough. They don't have enough speed. They don't have enough skill. They don't have enough depth of players that can really make a difference deeper down their lineup. You combine that with league average goaltending. Like I don't even think it's league average. It's near the bottom of the league. And then you have a blue line that's not playing their capability. So I guess if the blue line gets up to their capabilities, that's a way to get better. If they get some better forwards up there, goaltending, we know it's been up and down and at times been really good. But this is a team that I'm not making excuses for. I think it's a mediocre team. I think that the summer of 2024, they're going to look back at that summer as one that turned the fortune significantly with their chance. And I know they went to the Stanley Cup final last year, but some things went their way. I don't see it the same way this year, guys.
All right, Craig, we got it moving here because in our next segment, we have an interview with Peter Della Riva.
Peter Della Riva was a pretty good tight end, and he did a pretty good job there for the Alouettes for a lot of years. Hey, listen, I go back to the Johnny Rogers days.
Oh my gosh,
Levy,
number 20 in your program.
Levy.
What a big deal that was when Johnny Rogers came up to play with the Alouettes, and he was great up here.
Yes, he was.
Yeah. And nothing
Nebraska Cornhusker Heisman Trophy winner.
Running backwards into the end zone. Next week we'll talk about Junior Ayu.
Yeah.
I got to go, Craig, because I'll go on and on about former Montreal Alouettes. Thanks for this.
Have a great day.
Okay, you bet.